Good evening, everyone. You all know me, but just for the sake of other students who may be accessing this video later, myself, Shyam Sundar, and I'm taking your economics classes, as you know, and you also have no other option but to bear with me. So, just to bring a little bit of change for you, here comes, as you can recognize, in my neighborhood is sitting Mr. Yash Jaluka. Uh, Yash, as I'm sure most of you are aware, has attained fourth rank in the UPSC Civil Services examination, and he has taken economics optional. So specifically for all those people who are asking that economics cannot get good rank, okay, there cannot be a better example in near past than Yash. Okay, and before I ask some specific questions, I would just like to give a brief introduction, which many of you will be aware of. Uh, Starting from the graduation, he did his graduation from University of Delhi, from Kirodimal College. In fact, my association with Yash goes back to the KMC days only. I have taught him at KMC. I don't know how did I teach. Okay, he will tell you later on. But I was privileged to teach a student, and genuinely speaking, without any kind of a flabbergasting kind of a thing. This is something which is a very proud moment for me. And in college also, Yash was not overactive, but he used to come up with very good intellectual questions, which started a thought process in the teacher's mind also. Believe that teachers also learn a lot over a period of time from you students. So this is basically his introduction. After his graduation, he has taken his master's degree from the prestigious Delhi School of Economics, and along with his masters, he has prepared and appeared for the examination. In the first attempt, he has got very good rank. So basically, this talk is less about me and more about his experiences. So what I will be doing, I'll be asking some basic questions which I think are important for you. You can, in the meantime, also come up with some of the questions. We'll keep some time separate for it. So maybe after half an hour or so, we will take your questions, and that's it. I think a kind of a informal talk which we are going to have.
Before that, first, thank you, sir. Thank you for calling me here. You are too kind. I was mostly a backbencher in college, so all those nice things that sir said, please, I was a very mischievous and every student in college. So again, thank you, and it feels very good to be here and talk to you. I hope I will be of some help by the end of this session.
So to begin with, Yash, when did you decided that UPSC Civil Services examination is the career option for you?
I had some basic thought in my mind while I was in school. So in 11th and 12th, when I first had my brush with newspapers, but the serious thought started in only when I was in KMC, when I was a member of the debating society. So it was then only that I thought, yes, that's a good career option to pursue.
And roughly when did you start your preparation as a formal preparation for the examination?
So my fourth semester exams in D school got over on 16th of May 2019, and I took a break of around 2 weeks, and I started my preparation from 1st June of 2019.
Okay, excellent. So basically, the students, you can see he didn't take much time. He's telling that he started formally from June 2019. So don't get scared of economics as an optional. He did economics. Obviously, he had a background, so he had some comfort with that. But still, he did both the optional and all the GS papers in that short period of time. So hats off. This is something which is quite remarkable. And so basically, you think roughly around 1 year would be enough for preparing for the exam?
1 year is definitely more than enough. So people have done it in even shorter times. 1 year is
Okay. And since this is something, this talk is mainly geared towards the economics optional. So, what do you think are the advantages of economics as an optional?
Can I speak in Hindi? I
हाँ,
don't know if all the
बिल्कुल
participants are
बिल्कुल, you
comfortable.
can speak. Maybe a few people would have language issues, but so maybe in between you can come in and
Yeah, yeah.
so yes, why not?
So can you just repeat your question?
मैं ये पूछ रहा था कि इकोनॉमिक्स ऑप्शनल लेने के क्या एडवांटेजेस हैं, और दोनों के लिए, जिनके इकोनॉमिक्स बैकग्राउंड है या जिनके नहीं भी हैं और वो इकोनॉमिक्स में काफी इंटरेस्टेड.
So advantages काफी सारे हैं economics as an optional के. I think it's one of the best options. First of all, जिनके लिए जिनका background है, of course उनको edge तो मिलेगा ही because आपने पढ़ा है वो. So capitalize on that. उनके लिए advantage यही है कि you don't need to put as much effort for preparing an optional which you have already done in graduation. जो आपको एक नए option के लिए देना पड़ेगा. जिनका background नहीं है उनके लिए भी ये advantage है कि economics it's a very कॉमनली अप्लाइड सब्जेक्ट कि आप डेली लाइफ में लॉट ऑफ कॉन्सेप्ट जो आप इकोनॉमिक्स में पढ़ते हैं वो आपको डेली लाइफ में देखने को मिलते हैं, चाहे आपके डे टू डे इंटरेक्शन हो, चाहे न्यूज़पेपर में वो चीजें आए हो, तो आप वो सीखते ही हैं. और वो जो लिंक होता है बिटवीन थियोरेटिकल इकोनॉमिक्स एंड से रियल इकोनॉमिक्स एज वी कॉल, वो बहुत आपको क्लैरिटी देगा एंड इट विल बी वेरी एंजॉयबल फॉर यू टू स्टडी दैट सब्जेक्ट. सेकेंडली, इकोनॉमिक्स का बहुत ज्यादा ओवरलैप है बिटवीन जनरल स्टडीज एंड also the interview. So I believe that half of the preparation for this exam is economics and polity. So if you are thorough with that, and if अगर आपको optional भी वो है, then it puts an added advantage. So that's I think one of the key features of this option.
And about scoring also, I think it's one of the good scoring subjects.
हाँ, scoring में सी economics में ये है कि if you do well, if you do reasonably well, there's a set range within which आपका score आ जाएगा depending upon उस साल की optional की marking pattern के हिसाब से, but you will not be heavily penalized in economics. That's what I think, given जो मैंने analysis किया है बाकी past years के scores का when I was preparing. And also that if you prepare very well, then there's a chance कि आप बहुत अच्छा score कर सकते हैं. I remember one of my seniors from Delhi school, Kumar Anurag, 2018 batch, he scored very well in both his attempts in economics. तेजस्वी राणा मैम आईटी कानपुर से है एंड शी स्कोर्ड आई थिंक 325 इन इकोनॉमिक्स एज एन ऑप्शनल इन 2016. सो बहुत अच्छा स्कोर भी आ सकता है इस ऑप्शनल में. सो डोंट वरी अबाउट दैट कि नहीं आ सकता है, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. इट्स अ मिथ इफ यू बिलीव दैट.
And Yash, you talked about help in GS, which I keep on highlighting a lot in my classes and webinars also. The other thing, did you find any problem in material availability?
नहीं, ऑप्शनल के लिए इकोनॉमिक्स में मटेरियल अवेलेबिलिटी की डिफिकल्टी नहीं है. सो एक्सेप्ट फॉर वन पर्टिकुलर पार्ट, डेवलपमेंट पार्ट जो है पेपर वन का, उसके लिए मटेरियल्स थोड़े से स्कैटर्ड है. इट्स नॉट लाइक वो नहीं है अवेलेबल. यू जस्ट हैव टू रैक योर ब्रेन्स अ बिट, खोजने में थोड़ा सा प्रॉब्लम होता है. बाकी उसके अलावा देयर आर स्टैंडर्ड बुक्स अवेलेबल, देयर आर एम्पल रिसोर्सेज ऑन द वेबसाइट फॉर पेपर वन एंड पेपर टू एज वेल. पेपर टू व्हिच इज मोस्टली वेरी डायनामिक, उसके लिए इंटरनेट में देयर आर एम्पल रिसोर्सेज अवेलेबल. So resource availability is never a problem, unlike the subject itself, which is about scarce resources. But उसके लिए preparation में you will never face scarce resources. So.
Mhm. But you need its optimal utilization.
Of course.
Because your time is scarce.
Yeah.
Resources are not, but the time needed to prepare for it is definitely scarce.
Yeah.
Fine. So, the other thing which is very commonly asked, I know this question will be in many minds, that those people who are not from economics background, generally the engineers or people from science background, in fact, many of them are here, and I am trying my best to make economics as simple as for them. So, what is your advice to them, जिन्होंने economics नहीं पढ़ी है पहले, engineering background से?
See, I think engineers have an added advantage when it comes to economics. So in Delhi school also we used to have a lot of people from engineering backgrounds जो सीधे masters level के preparation में आ रहे थे. And Delhi school का level, the rigor there is much higher than what rigor is required for civils preparation. So engineers have a advantage, I would say, because mathematics और logical reasoning जो economics require करता है, वो you already have a good training in. So I don't think that engineers are in any way at a disadvantage. Ha, you will face some initial resistance जब भी आप कोई भी नया concept पढ़े, and I think that applies across all options, चाहे आप sociology पढ़े from an engineering background, चाहे आप anthropology पढ़े, that initial resistance will be there, but in economics I think that fades very quickly, and then it's a very smooth ride after that.
Uh, and it's like paper two is typically their main constraint.
Yeah.
So what will be your advice on paper two?
पेपर टू, अगेन पेपर टू लाइक आई सेड कि बहुत ही ज्यादा डायनामिक पेपर है. अगर आप उसके पास्ट ईयर्स देखें, पेपर टू में बहुत करंट इवेंट्स के ऊपर काफी क्वेश्चंस आते हैं. बट द गुड थिंग इज कि आपको वो पर्सपेक्टिव आई थिंक यू शुड हैव जीएस के लिए भी. पेपर टू में तो ओनली एडिशनल थिंग इज रिक्वायर्ड कि आपको थोड़ा सा एकेडमिक लिंक उसमें बनाना पड़ता है. सो यू हैव टू से नो द वेरियस आर्गुमेंट जो इकोनॉमिस्ट्स मेक कर रहे हैं फॉर्मली, आपको उनका नाम साइट करना होता है. यू हैव टू रिलाई मच मोर ऑन डेटा फॉर पेपर टू दैन प्रोबेबली इन जीएस. बट कॉन्सेप्ट्स जो हो गया या जो प्रॉब्लम जो इश्यूज आपको पेपर टू के लिए स्टडी करना होता है, लार्ज देयर इज अ ह्यूज ओवरलैप बिटवीन दैट एंड जीएस. सो डोंट थिंक कि पेपर टू में यू आर एट अ डिसएडवांटेज. वो आपको जीएस के लिए करना ही है. एनीवे जीएस में 10 क्वेश्चंस आते हैं इकोनॉमी सेक्शन से, so that's not much different from the GS preparation.
And apart from 10 questions, even in paper 1 and 2, they ask which are linked.
Yeah.
Like in paper
poverty
1,
index हो गया, या society globalization issues हो गए, poverty index हो गया, जिसके ऊपर इस साल क्वेश्चन आया था. So all of those questions are obviously there. Interview में there's a massive advantage if you are prepared well for paper 2, because half of the interview will be that only if you plan it strategically.
In fact, Yash scored better in paper 2, contrary to the common perception. He scored definitely well in paper 1 as well, but compared to paper 1, his own performance was better in paper 2. Just one more thing. Did you attempt the economic history questions also in paper 1, paper 2?
So जो compulsory part में था वो तो obviously I have to attempt, but जो optional part था that I did because I didn't know.
Okay. So you preferred the post independence part better. Okay. And so the other thing is, did your D school background was actually of immense help, or I mean it was more of neutral, or the other way around?
So I think my answer here would be slightly biased because I have very fond memories of my time in D school. So, but specifically regarding the preparation, I don't think that D school has an advantage when it comes to the syllabus, because जो syllabus है that's largely related to the honors level. जो आप notification में भी if you read it's clearly mentioned there. कुछ सेक्शंस थे जहां मुझे थोड़ा सा एडवांटेज हुआ था दिल्ली स्कूल से. फॉर एग्जांपल पॉवर्टी में वी हैड अ वेरी गुड क्लास on poverty measures and related issues in D school. But again, that's something that you can prepare regardless. अगर आपका D school background नहीं है या आपका एक master's background नहीं है economics में. In paper one, there was this section on technological progress and economic growth. उसमें I wrote the models by Paul Romer in my answers, which we were taught in D school. So this was the only advantage that I think I had from there. Apart from that, no such thing.
Yes, I mean you may not recognize because you were earlier also in DU, but I'm sure the mathematical skills which you learned even in your undergrad must have been very helpful in the exam.
Yeah, definitely. हाँ, that's a very important point because ये एक misconception है regarding civil services का economics optional that you don't need mathematics or such thing. Again, just a clarification. Don't be discouraged when I say or when sir says कि mathematics आपको जरूरत है इस एग्जाम के लिए. जिस लेवल की मैथमेटिक्स चाहिए that's pretty doable. अगर आपने 10th तक भी मैथमेटिक्स किया है, even if not in class 11th and 12th, you just need basic calculus. Now where is it needed? In areas like market structure के questions वगैरह या individual utility maximization, उन areas में if you have a decent mathematical background या अगर आप maths के through अगर आप उसको पढ़ते हैं, of course graphs are important, they're very important, but if you know the equations well, if you can understand the equations, it sharpens your edge a lot. So don't be discouraged by that. इस साल in fact, and this is a trend that you will see across papers कि mathematical questions आ रहे हैं. UPSC is expecting you to know those Cournot equilibrium के questions या Bertrand equilibrium के questions वो पूछ रहे हैं exam पे. So it's not just mere algebra. You need to be slightly adept at calculus. And the good thing is that it's very doable. There are excellent books which I'm sure sir ने आपको बताया होगा. Books like Snyder Nicholson and all these books जहाँ से आप बहुत अच्छे से ये कैलकुलस भी और उनके एप्लीकेशंस भी फॉर दीस क्वेश्चंस आप सीख सकते हैं, प्रैक्टिस कर सकते हैं.
In fact, just for information, I had some 2-3 classes with these students on mathematics, and I tried to bring the concepts like function or
Yeah.
this is very important, and I deliberately talked about it because there is a this misconception is in most of the institutes, and many students are admitted in the institutes telling that in UPSC you don't need mathematics and economics, but as Yash is telling, and I must have shared this with you earlier, that particularly in the last 2 years the weightage of mathematics has increased a lot. They asked one compulsory question which was also mathematical, I think in 2019.
Yeah.
So this is something which no one can get away from. That is the issue. Yeah. And yes, that definitely helps you in scoring marks, more marks.
So if you say depict a particular concept using a graph, and also you can show the equation for that, then of course you will be awarded better marks than say someone who has just drawn a graph there. So if you can do that, then that's very well and good. Sometimes you may not remember a graph, but you can remember the equations. So for example, I remember this year there was a question on technological progress and how I think some questions की innovations अगर बढ़ते हैं economy में, then how the effect of that. I solve that problem entirely using calculus. So मैंने graph से नहीं दिखाया था उसको because exam में मुझे नहीं आ रहा था कि how can I draw a graph for that, but I knew the equation. So of course there's an added advantage if you can also write the equation for a particular problem.
एक क्वेश्चन जो काफी स्टूडेंट्स पूछते हैं मुझसे भी, आई हैव माय ओन वे ऑफ आंसरिंग, बट आई थिंक यू विल बी बेटर एबल टू time management related issue. For example, there are 10 compulsory questions in each paper, and particularly in paper 1 some of the questions are needing a lot of material to be given within time limit. You have hardly 7 to 8 minutes maximum. So how do you think it should be managed, as in compulsory vis-a-vis the optional questions, if you can share this?
Time management is an issue, and I think this is true for all the 9 papers, at least all the 7 competitive papers in civils. Regarding optional, I think for paper 1, what you need to do is be very thorough with your graphs. कि आप exam में if you know a graph, आपको सोचना नहीं पड़े उसको बनाने में. You just pick your pencil. You don't even need a ruler. आप just line खींचे and आपका graph बन जाना चाहिए. So you need to have that level of practice because that is needed. Because trust me, जितने भी serious aspirants हैं civils के लिए with economics option, they are at that level. जिनका graphs उतना clear है that they can draw that graph blindly in the exam. So graphs को जितना practice कर सकते हैं, equation को जितना practice कर सकते हैं, उतना practice कीजिए. But if you do that, paper 1 I think mostly will be done because A, graph takes a lot of space, B, it reduces the time, and B, it can fetch you more marks. So अगर graph आप use करते हैं, equations use करते हैं, it's much quicker than just to write words. So A, that, and B, I think past years अगर आप solve करके जाते हैं, you already know for a lot of questions कि how to write or how to approach the particular question. So again, that's very important for paper 1 at least. Paper 2 में you need very quick hands, to you need a decent writing speed in writing. So use data as much as possible. So अगर आपको लग रहा है जैसे एग्जाम में कि आपको पॉजिटिव हो रही है टाइम की, आपको टाइम की कमी होगी, then there are certain cheat codes that you have to use. So for example, you can, I remember there was a question on inequality इस साल, and I was running short on time and also space because मैंने पेज पलटा, I thought there will be 3 pages to answer that question, but वो सिर्फ 2 pages ही बचे थे. So I had to come up with something immediately, and I just drew a Kuznets curve वहाँ पर मैंने बता दिया कि अच्छा this is the relation between economic growth and inequality. I didn't plan on doing that पहले. So there are these are certain things which you will have to come up with in the exam to manage your time. Paper 2 में I was really running short on time, and I had to rush a lot in the end. So you practice as much as you can beforehand, especially the graphs and the data in economists के जितने भी references you can use in the paper.
So apart from graphs in paper 1, did you just kind of explain the graph and come out of it, or did you prepare some formal introduction, conclusion?
अब पेपर 1 के लिए सर ऑनेस्टली मैंने उतनी आंसर राइटिंग नहीं करी थी बिकॉज आई मेड अ मिस्टेक कि प्रीलिम्स के बाद आई वाज वेरी रिलैक्स आउट ऑफ 1.5 months. And
so just think if he wouldn't have relaxed.
So I made this terrible mistake in December. When December end was approaching, I was panicking a lot. So मैंने past years भी ऐसे structured तरीके से solve नहीं किया था because I didn't have the time to do it. तो आई सॉल्व वेरी रफली, मैंने बस ग्राफ्स उसके बनाने की कोशिश की कि आई जस्ट आस्किंग माय सेल्फ अगर ये क्वेश्चन आता है देन हाउ कैन आई आंसर इट। वो एक मेंटल एक्सरसाइज मैंने किया था। सो रिगार्डिंग graphs, I think that's how you do it. You just practice as much as you can.
And it should always be in pencil.
I mean, when I was doing it at my home, मैं of course pen से करता था because that's how I was writing it. But exam में you use the pencil because a you can make a mistake and there's no time to cut it and then because it will also eat up your space and also it will eat up a lot of your mental energy. You will get tense when you see you are making a mistake and you can't edit that. So that's the thing. And sir का जो specific question था regarding graph का क्या करना है. So I did not have this proper structure in mind because as I said I did not practice answer writing for optional. तो मेरा कोई ऐसा introduction body conclusion वाला format नहीं था जो GS में होता है. I just keep up and I think it's a good thing about optional and specifically economics optional because the people who will be checking the paper will be economists invariably. तो उनको पता है कि उस question का answer क्या है, specific answer क्या है. So you just have to hit the bullseye there. You don't have to beat around the bush. आपको इधर-उधर की बातें नहीं करनी है. So introduction अगर आपको suppose Harrod Doman का knife edge model के ऊपर question पूछा है, what is the knife edge problem? Then you just start with the assumption कि उस कौन सा assumption है जिसकी वजह से knife edge problem होता है. You don't need to explain कि अच्छा Harrod ने क्या लिखा था and Doman ने क्या लिखा था. All of that is not required. So be as specific as possible in economics optional. एंड डोंट वरी अबाउट स्पेस कि अगर 3 पेज दिए हैं मेरा अगर 2 पेज में ही हो जा रहा है तो मैं क्या करूं. ठीक है, ऑप्शनल में दैट्स नॉट द थिंग दैट यू नीड टू वरी अबाउट आंसरिंग द क्वेश्चन एज स्पेसिफिकली एज पॉसिबल. सो दैट्स द थिंग. ग्राफ में एक्सप्लेनेशन इफ यू थिंक दैट वो ग्राफ थोड़ा टीडियस है एंड यू मे हैव टू ऐड समथिंग टू इट, do that. If you think that the graph is self explanatory then you can cut short on that कि आप explanation ज्यादा ना लिखिए, एक दो चीज में लिखिए, एक दो लाइन में लिख दे. और even better if you can just label the graph that way so that it becomes even more self explanatory.
Actually, there are a couple of questions where number of graphs also increase. Like I face a common question from many of these students that in that Marshallian Walrasian stability, there is no other option but to talk about all the possibilities. But then I told them that you draw the graph and cut short on whatever you are writing. That is the best way. So basically, there is no substitute for graph. The graph has to be conceptually correct and depends on the rest of the time available that how do we explain that graph. But definitely time limit should be kept in mind at every point of time. So that is one thing. I think I'll take some questions now from students also. If you have, we have been in long talk. Okay.
Yeah. So regarding the first question, all the eco toppers belonging to DU. What about other college students? ऐसा नहीं है कि सारे इकोनॉमिक्स के टॉपर्स डीयू या जेएनयू से ही है. देयर आर अदर स्टूडेंट्स फ्रॉम सी यूनिवर्सिटीज लाइक हैदराबाद यूनिवर्सिटी और फ्रॉम उत्कल यूनिवर्सिटी इन ओडिशा, रेवेन शॉ यूनिवर्सिटी. यहाँ से भी स्टूडेंट्स आ रहे हैं इकोनॉमिक्स ऑप्शन से. एंड लुक, यू डोंट हैव टू वरी अबाउट दीस थिंग्स बिकॉज ये आपके हाथ में नहीं है. एंड मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंटली यूपीएससी आपका कॉलेज नहीं देखता है व्हाइल इवैल्यूएटिंग द पेपर. ठीक है, सो आप सब चाहे आप दिल्ली स्कूल से हो, चाहे आप एमआईटी से पीएचडी करके आए हो या आप किसी भी यूनिवर्सिटी से हो इंडिया के, यू आर ऑल एट द सेम पेडेस्टल फॉर यूपीएससी. सो डोंट वरी अबाउट दीस थिंग्स. आपके पास सिलेबस है, आपके पास पास्ट ईयर्स है, आपके पास मटेरियल है. ऑल यू हैव टू फोकस ऑन इज अंडरस्टैंडिंग द कॉन्सेप्ट्स वेल एंड राइटिंग देम ऑन द पेपर. दैट्स इट. Yeah. So the second question is, how do you manage to prepare for GS and optional at the same time? So the timeline that I had was कि मैंने September तक from June to September for 4 months I made notes and I prepared for my GS static part. So history, geography, art and culture, polity, ये सारी books मैंने cover करी थी along with newspapers. From अक्टूबर टू दिसंबर मैंने ऑप्शनल के लिए प्रिपेयर किया था. स्पेसिफिकली ऑप्शनल उस टाइम मैं जीएस नहीं कर रहा था एक्सेप्ट न्यूज़पेपर्स. तो न्यूज़पेपर्स से जितना जीएस कवर होता था दैट वाज इट. बाकी मैं सिर्फ और सिर्फ ऑप्शनल करता था. तो ये 7 महीने मुझे लगे सिर्फ नोट्स बनाने में फॉर जीएस एंड ऑप्शनल. उसके बाद ऑफ कोर्स रिवीजन का साइकिल चलते रहता है. सो हाउ कैन वी हैव एक्सेस टू योर ऑप्शनल आंसर्स? यार आई एम सॉरी, मैं जितना कुछ 10-15 आंसर्स मैंने लिखे थे specifically for paper 2, I will try to upload them. मुझे खोजना पड़ेगा. I think I would have lost the notebooks जब मैंने अपना flat shift किया था, but I would try to find them. उसके अलावा मैंने कोई फॉर्मल आंसर राइटिंग प्रैक्टिस नहीं करी थी, सो आई एम सॉरी आई वुड नॉट बी एबल टू प्रोवाइड एक्सेस टू माय आंसर्स बिकॉज दे डोंट एग्जिस्ट. Time for paper 2, I think we have already covered that. If you want me to repeat it, then I'll just say कि paper 2 में you have to have a good writing speed. Paper 2 में in fact there is less stress compared to आपका GS का paper, because GS में आपको ज्यादा number of words लिखने पड़ते हैं. So don't worry about it. अगर आप GS में time management कर सकते हैं तो paper 2 में time management definitely कर सकते हैं, because एक तो आपको एक कम question answer करना होता है because GS में 20 questions are there और ऑप्शनल में 19 क्वेश्चंस आर देयर. उसमें भी 19 क्वेश्चंस में देयर आर लेसर नंबर ऑफ पेजेस दैट यू हैव टू राइट. बी यू हैव टू यूज यू हैव एक्सेस टू स्टफ लाइक आप टेबल्स बना सकते हैं डेटा पॉइंट को एक्सप्लेन करने के लिए, आप ग्राफ्स बना सकते हैं कोई कॉन्सेप्ट को एक्सप्लेन करने के लिए. सो ऑल दीज टूल्स आर देयर इन योर पेपर, सो फील फ्री टू यूज देम. तो उसके हिसाब से टाइम मैनेजमेंट हो जाएगा. अगर आपको लग रहा है कि आप नहीं लिख सक रहे हैं उतना, देन प्लीज प्रैक्टिस इट बिफोर हैंड कि आप 3-4 साल के पास्ट ईयर्स आप अच्छे से अटेम्प्ट करें और उसके बाद you will get the confidence to finish the paper on time.
Which I'll make it for them. That is not a big worry. And one more thing which I just wanted to ask Yash is, as far as I see, because I'm teaching for GS also, economics, and for optional also, I think in GS they are asking more unpredictable economics questions than optional.
That is true, because GS में their focus is more on the current affairs part, because they have to make it challenging for all the 10,000 students who are writing that paper. Okay, so GS में वो होगा, वो unpredictability होगी, and that's true for all the GS papers, not just GS3 का economy वाला part. Paper 2 में that's an advantage because you have sort of a structure कि आपसे अच्छा pre-independence से आपको 3 questions का एक set आएगा ही आएगा. ठीक है, so these are the some of the structures that you have already in mind. Defined parts है syllabus के, जैसे पब्लिक फाइनेंस के ऊपर एक क्वेश्चन आएगा, डीसेंट, मतलब मोस्टली यही क्वेश्चन आता है कि फाइनेंस कमीशन के रिकमेंडेशंस को एनालाइज करो. तो ये प्रेडिक्टेबिलिटी थोड़ी बहुत है पेपर 2 में, व्हिच इज नॉट देयर इन जीएस. सो इफ यू आर कवरिंग जीएस वेल, इट हेल्प्स यू इन कवरिंग पेपर 2 आल्सो, एंड वाइस वर्सा ऑफ कोर्स. रिगार्डिंग इकोनॉमी फॉर प्रीलिम्स एंड उसके सोर्सेज, अब मैंने कोई बुक नहीं रेफर करी थी फॉर प्रीलिम्स और फॉर जीएस इकोनॉमी इन जनरल, बिकॉज मेरा ऑप्शनल के थ्रू वो हो ही रहा था. बट रिगार्डलेस ऑफ दैट, आई थिंक आई डोंट थिंक एनी बुक इज रिक्वायर्ड फॉर प्रिपेयरिंग इकोनॉमिक्स फॉर जीएस, बिकॉज जो मेन मटेरियल है दैट्स योर न्यूज़पेपर, economic survey and budget. Beyond these things, I don't think you need to go anywhere else. Of course, internet का support लेना पड़ेगा. For example, RBI's website, where you can get an understanding of say monetary policy की various tools, की repo rate क्या है, SLR क्या है, उसकी जो formal definitions है, वो सारी चीजें आपको वहां से मिल जाती है. Then this excellent website called Arthapedia by Indian Economic Service Officers. So इन चीजों का फायदा लेना है आपको बिल्कुल, लेकिन I don't think there's any special source या book ऐसा जो prelims के लिए या GS mains के लिए required है.
And I think the Niti Aayog report is also
very important. Niti Aayog, I forgot to mention that. So Niti Aayog has 2 excellent reports. One is Action Agenda and one is a strategic plan for India at 75. I think both these reports are excellent. मैंने Action Agenda नहीं पढ़ा था because I thought कि that's slightly dated, because बहुत सारी चीजें उसमें already हो गई हैं by the time I started preparing. So I use a strategic plan for India at strategic vision or strategic plan for India at 75. मैंने वो पढ़ा था. That's an excellent document. You should refer to it, of course.
We'll talk about it, because right now we are doing paper 1, yeah. So there is not much reading they know about paper 2, which we'll be talking about.
Should we take more questions?
Yes, definitely. I think
so. Are books compulsory if we have class notes, or we should give extra time for GS and use notes? So look, books. It's the question is not very clear whether it's regarding GS के books या optional के books. So I'll answer both ways. GS के books, like I said, it's not required for optional for economics part of GS3. For optional में, I think यार, regardless of whether you are taking coaching or not, I think you have to go through the primary material. आपको हुजा या फ्रोवे या जो भी books, Salvatore वगैरह जो भी books which we will discuss now, आपको वो books पढ़नी पड़ेगी खुद से, because no one can print that model in your mind better than you can. ठीक है, आपको वो models खुद से पढ़ के you have to struggle with it, you have to fight with it, you have to challenge the assumptions जो भी वहाँ दिए हुए, understand it, and खुद से model पढ़ के graph practice करना खुद से पड़ेगा, no matter you are taking coaching or not. ठीक है, so वो आपको खुद से करना ही पड़ेगा. So that's that.
Although just a small interruption, at least in microeconomics, I took a lot of time with them, but I have tried them to give whatever Ahuja plus quotient is plus variant a lot. So they are much more fortunate that they are getting this straight away from the class notes. So, but still, some reading is required because in the limited time period we cannot talk about everything.
Of course.
Yes, the next one.
How you prepare for current affairs? Again, for GS, जो current affairs है उसके लिए current affairs के लिए generally एक ही resource है, that's the newspapers. There's no other source. Read either of the newspapers. One question which a lot of people have asked me is कि did you read any special newspaper for economics optional? कि आपने कोई मिंट या फाइनेंशियल एक्सप्रेस वगैरह या बिजनेस स्टैंडर्ड वगैरह कुछ पढ़ा था? I did not. मैंने नहीं पढ़ा था. I only used to read the Hindu अच्छे से. Indian Express का explained section I used to read every day. Apart from that, Insights on India का current affairs का जो daily current affairs का जो notes आता था, I used to do that so that उनका जो PIB का जो references है वो मेरा cover हो जाए. So I didn't have to read PIB separately. उसके बाद जो एक मंथली मैगजीन आती है मंथ के एंड में, मैं वो पढ़ता था. जो बाकी 365 365 आते हैं मैंने नहीं खोला उसको because I think that's honestly irrelevant. So this was only thing that I did for current affairs. Mint मैंने पढ़ना शुरू किया after my mains when I was preparing for my interview. That's it. उसके पहले मैंने Mint नहीं पढ़ा था. हाँ, मैंने कुछ articles Mint के पढ़े थे specifically when I have to when I wanted some additional resource. For example, Mint में there's an excellent article on the Bhagwati Singh debate. So for example, तो इन कुछ particular topics के लिए I used to search on the internet कि अच्छा इस पे मुझे Mint का कोई article मिल जाएगा क्या? That's it. मैंने Mint regularly ऐसे daily जो newspaper जैसे पढ़ते हैं वैसे नहीं पढ़ा था. So बाकी आपकी choice है. If you think that you need that, please feel free to do that.
Actually, that also depends a lot on kind of a background, whether you have an economics or not. So, for example, when he was doing his undergrad or postgrad, he must have done a lot of reading on agriculture, let's say. So the students who have not done that much of reading on agriculture, if they are regular with, say, business line editorials, which gives very often editorials on agriculture, that would be helping.
मतलब जो मेरा बैकग्राउंड था, मेरा प्रिपरेशन उसके हिसाब से था. So आप अपने बैकग्राउंड, अपने कंफर्ट लेवल के हिसाब से प्लीज यू फील फ्री टू चेंज दैट स्ट्रेटजी. अगर आपको लगता है you should read an additional newspaper and you have time for that, please do it by all means.
Even occasionally. Yeah. Indian Express is an excellent newspaper, as he said. In fact, in the GS part, I emphasize more on that, but it goes for the optional students also, that they explained the section that they are giving on in Indian Express almost daily. That is a big relief for the beginners, whether on economics or on other aspects.
There's a weekly explained column by Mr. Udit Mishra in Explain. So वो काफी अच्छा होता है. That's specific to economics part of it. So he covers all the important economic events for the past week. So I would suggest you keep an eye out for that at least. That's very important.
In fact, since this is being discussed, I should also tell anyone who is not doing business newspaper also, if they do Indian Express properly, it is a lot helpful. Reason why am I telling is that in the editorial, opposite editorial and the explained page, on an average, every day or every alternate day, they have some economy related article. So sometimes they have on agriculture, the famous columnist is there, Ashok Gulati writes. Similarly, in Mint, you have a couple of very, very famous columns. So you can follow any one of them. If not financial newspaper, the Indian Express would be.
Yeah, for example, for banking in Mint, विवेक कॉल जी का एक लॉन्ग रीड वाला आर्टिकल आता है ऑलमोस्ट एवरी वीक. सो अगर आपके पास टाइम नहीं है, सो यू कैन फॉलो दीज पर्टिकुलर कॉलमनिस्ट जिनका आप एडिटोरियल फॉलो करें अच्छे से, ताकि आपको वो एरिया एटलीस्ट अच्छे से कवर हो जाए. सो दैट्स दैट. 10-15 number of answers or full 10-15 sets of paper answers. 10-15 answers लिखे थे मैंने. पेपर सॉल्व करने का टाइम नहीं था because I said I made a mistake in the beginning. So papers I wish I solved them. मेरे मार्क्स इंप्रूव हो जाते पेपर 1 में, बट मैंने नहीं किया. So regarding model answers, look, I don't think there is any model answer for any question. I don't think UPSC also has a model answer for any question. आप अपना खुद का model answer बनाएं. So say अगर आपको कोई question है, आप उसको solve करिए. If you have a study group, then get it checked by them. If you have teachers, then get it checked by them. उसके बाद आप उस question को दोबारा attempt कीजिए. I think it's impossible, no matter how smart you are, to write a perfect answer in the first place. ठीक है, be fine with that, be fine with your imperfections. कि आप पहली बार में अच्छा आंसर नहीं लिखेंगे, be humble enough to accept that कि हाँ मैंने नहीं लिखा है अच्छा आंसर. ठीक है, that's very important because बहुत लोगों को होता है कि नहीं, I have written a good answer, I don't need any good more advice on that. Be humble enough to accept your shortcomings. उसके बाद आप बार बार उस क्वेश्चन को 3-4 बार और अटेम्प्ट कीजिए, से 2 दिन बाद या 3 दिन बाद, and then you will see definite improvement in your answers, and वो आपका मॉडल आंसर बन जाएगा. ठीक है, कि अच्छा इस टाइप के क्वेश्चंस को या ऐसे जब इस ऐसे ग्राफ बनाना है तो हाउ डू आई यूज माय ग्राफ, हाउ डू आई एक्सप्लेन माय ग्राफ, वो आपका मॉडल आंसर खुद ब खुद बन जाएगा. एंड एनी केस, तेजस्वी राणा मैम के आंसर शीट्स, आई थिंक हर आंसर शीट्स आर अवेलेबल ऑन द इंटरनेट. कुमार अनुराग के आंसर शीट्स आर अवेलेबल ऑन द इंटरनेट, यू कैन गो थ्रू देम. उन्होंने अपने टेस्ट पेपर्स डाले हुए हैं, so you can see how they wrote the answers. But regardless of that, I think you should still have your own style, your own originality, because that's very very important in all the papers of civil services.
Exactly. Particularly for paper 2, I would say, because paper 1 is more objective kind of a thing. There are not many ways to write the answer. The graphs are common, the explanation will be common. So that is why after I gave you a couple of model answers and I discussed how to write it, I have not given many, because I know that if you understood the graph and you just explain it, it is okay. When we come to paper 2, I will check your answers when you write the model answers, but at the same time, it should never be copy of each other. In fact, that gives you the unique that gives uniqueness to your answer. Everyone has their own way of answering the question, and remember that the questions will not be repeated every time. There will be a couple of new things which will keep on coming, and how smartly you pick up is very important.
So how do you manage to revise for optional while preparing for prelims? So मैंने अपना optional last touch किया था before prelims in December 2019 when I was finishing my first reading. उसके बाद मैंने optional छोड़ दिया मेरा till the prelims got postponed. When the prelims got postponed, उसका I think notification mid May में आया था. So उसके बाद मैंने I picked up my paper 2 again. मैंने paper 2 को फिर से revise किया. I finished my paper 2 का एक revision because it also helped me cover a lot of my GS3 के notes. So मैंने वो किया था. Prelims के पहले मैंने अपना paper 1 बिल्कुल टच नहीं किया. मैंने बस उसके जो notes बनाए थे एक साल पहले बस वही बनाया था. I started revising my optional only after my prelims. And I think that's enough if you have prepared your notes well. अगर आपने समझा है अपने notes अच्छे से बना के, ऐसा नहीं कि आपने ऊर्जा में एक ग्राफ देखा और आपने उसको उतार दिया पेपर में और वहां के assumptions लिख दिए. उसको notes बनाना नहीं बोलते हैं. नोट्स बनाना बोलते हैं अगर आपको वो ग्राफ समझ रहे हैं और आप समझ के उसको बना रहे हैं, कि अगर आपको कोई बोले कि बुक बंद करके फिर से बनाओ ग्राफ तो आप बना सके. कि नोट्स बनाना वो होता है. If you have done that before prelims, I think you have ample time between prelims and mains if you don't make a mistake like me कि आप रिवाइज कर सके उसको. ठीक है, enough times रिवाइज कर सके.
So exactly, this is a very good advice which is given, that the graphs which you are making, which we are making a lot in class, you should always be trying to make it without looking into it at all,
because exam में आपके पास book नहीं रहेगा ग्राफ बनाने के लिए.
So that particularly for the questions which are repeatedly coming, let's say on oligopoly or on, let's say, welfare economics, they are asking regular questions from there, and even in macroeconomics, the ISLM model, etc. So in any case, ISLM graphically is very simple thing. I think more complex graphs are in microeconomics.
Micro and international economics में ज़्यादा complex graphs.
They have not done international, so they are not aware of it right now. But yes, you are correct. But I think still, even compared to international economics,
micro graphs are more.
The monopolistic competition, for example, I have given them a number of cheating ways to remember the graphs, by the way. I don't know if they do remember, because without that, it becomes nearly impossible to remember those graphs.
So nuances होते हैं graphs की बहुत सारे, कि backward sloping के लिए आप कुछ चीजें का ध्यान रखना पड़ता है, तभी वो backward sloping correct होता है. So all of those nuances are there in graphs. So वही आपको practice से वो आएगा ताकि वो nuance exam में याद रखें.
So basically, we have completed microeconomics. If you are confident on those graphs, I can assure you that the rest will follow easily.
Yeah.
Like macroeconomics graphs are relatively easier. As he said, international economics is little tougher, but again, I would say not as tough as the basic market theory, monopolistic competition, etc. That is the.
Are abbreviative forms of certain words allowed? Yeah, they are allowed. So, but you have to be careful कि वो ऐसे abbreviations होने चाहिए जो reasonably aware इंसान को पता हो. For example, MSP को आप MSP लिख सकते हैं कि minimum support price है. ठीक है. सो बट कोई एब्रीविएशन अगेन फॉर ऐसे एमआरटीपी को आप एमआरटीपी लिख सकते हैं, वो पता है कि एमआरटीपी एक्ट के बारे में अगर पूछा है तो these are तो एब्रीविएशंस आप यूज करिए, बिल्कुल यूज करिए, बट ऐसा कोई एब्रीविएशन नहीं जो किसी जो एवरेज न्यूज़पेपर रीडर जो अगर नहीं समझ पाए वो एब्रीविएशन, तो वो एब्रीविएशन सही नहीं है. ठीक है.
Like in micro, if you are using AR, MR, obviously everyone understands AP, MP, everyone understands. Sometimes, if you are extremely short of time, you can write a pi for profit. So those things I think is fine.
Those are standard notations in economics, which I think any good professor जो आपको पेपर चेक कर रहा होगा उसको पता होगा. So these are standard notations जो आप यूज कर सकते हैं. Feel free to do that. Advice for last week before prelims. Sorry, I forgot about it. All the best to everyone who's writing prelims this year. Last week में मैं दो ही बातें कहना चाहूँगा. सबसे पहले तो don't be stressed. I know it's easier to say now because I have crossed that hurdle and I was also very stressed. But try to be as relaxed as possible and don't read any new material or solve any new mock papers or anything because that can really wreck your confidence. अगर आपका by chance खराब हो गया उस time paper, तो that can mess up your confidence a lot. Focus on revisions of important sections जैसे polity, economy, environment में जैसे national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, इन parts से जहाँ questions आते ही आते हैं अच्छे से, उन parts के revisions पे ज़्यादा focus कीजिए. If you have collected say factoids of prelims, so prelims related specific facts हैं, उनको revise करने में ज़्यादा focus कीजिए. Buddhism, Jainism is again a very important part of the question. So these are the things that you need to do in the last week before prelims.
So correct. I'll just repeat what he's telling is very important, that when you are writing your prelims examination, you should forget for the time being that you are having economics optional. Then your environment, geography, certain parts of history, from where short questions are coming. Because economics, conceptual questions you can handle if you are reasonably good in it. And as far as the factual questions are concerned, you are at the same level as any other person. Factual questions are all about memorizing. What I would also add here is, in UPSC prelims, they have a very common habit of asking questions which appear very complex, but a little bit of common sense makes it simple. Okay, just giving you one example. I don't remember exactly. There was a question on MSP where they had written, MSP is announced for something like 10 different crops. Now, no person on the earth, there may be exceptions, but even from geography background, etc., will remember all the crops. Now, the trick in that question was that if you know even one crop for which MSP is not announced, which was coffee there. So for coffee, it was more or less common to people that the MSP is not announced. A student who knew this could have cracked that question. So I would also appreciate Yash for another thing, and I have noticed it in college also. He doesn't get nervous. Okay, he can be laggard in preparation sometimes, but he's not nervous. He takes the thing that the way it is coming and kind of makes himself comfortable in that. That is a big art which all of you should be learning. Remember one thing, it's a general advice, not just for this examination. There is nothing in our life which is like a last thing. Okay, that if this happens, then we are here, and if it doesn't, then we are gone. There is nothing in life. Forget about UPSC, forget about the examination per se. If you go in examination with that set of mind, you will be calm. Your common sense will work in a better way. And there, just by your sheer common sense, you will handle at least 10, 12 questions in prelims, I can tell you.
Yeah, I completely agree with sir. You don't have to make the exam be all and end all, and not just and for the purpose of doing well in the exam. But obviously, that's important कि आप tension ना लिए बिना अगर आप नहीं लेते तो आपका exam में performance improve होता है. But also because if you don't by chance, unfortunately, do well in the exam, relaxing a bit and taking it just as an exam is very important for your mental health for the rest of your life. ठीक है, आपको एक एग्जाम में खराब परफॉर्मेंस को उस बैगेज को जिंदगी भर नहीं कैरी करना है अपने साथ. It's very important to remember that. ठीक है, I remember कि जब मेरा prelims था last year, it was the same day, exactly 1 year ago, 4th October को. Two of my best friends, they came to me at the center and we were just making jokes like anything exam center में घुसने से पहले, so that by the time I was entering the exam hall, I had completely forgotten कि why am I here, कि इतना important day है. It was just कि मुझे जाना है 100 questions होंगे and I have to solve those MCQs. ठीक है? So remember that it's just an exam, and sir very correctly said, it's not the end of your life, it's not the end of anything if you don't do well in the exam. And I'm sure you all will do well, but no one has seen the future, so remember that. Okay?
The people with economics background are not unemployed. Don't worry.
Yeah.
We teach unemployment to everyone. we typically are not unemployed. So go with that set of mind, and the rest will take care of itself. Particularly for those people who are appearing for prelims right now, and for everyone actually who are coming. So we'll take more questions.
Yeah. Did you cover GS economics static syllabus separately or with optional? So GS economy के static part के लिए, as I said before, जो नीति आयोग का जो document है strategy for new India at 75, I use that to form the skeleton of my notes. So for example, उसमें chapters दिए हुए हैं उनसे roadways या airways, waterways के ऊपर या on basic agriculture related issues. So I read those chapters, मैंने वहां से skeleton बना लिया अपने notes का, क्योंकि current situation क्या है, current problems क्या है, वे फॉरवर्ड क्या है, ये 3 सेक्शंस के मैंने हर टॉपिक के लिए नोट बना लिए जो कि डायरेक्टली गिवन है उस डॉक्यूमेंट में. उसके बाद ऑल आई हैड टू डू फॉर जीएस पार्ट वाज रीड द न्यूज़पेपर, और उसके बाद मेरे खुद मटेरियल वहां एक्यूमुलेट होते जाते थे कि अगर सपोज रोडवेज में प्रॉब्लम है कि सपोज इनएफिशिएंसी है टोल बूथ्स के ऊपर, एंड द गवर्नमेंट हैज ब्रॉट द फास्ट टैग सिस्टम, तो मैं बस वहां ऐड कर दूंगा कि अच्छा दिस इज समथिंग दैट द गवर्नमेंट हैज डन, और न्यूज़पेपर में अगर उसके रिगार्डिंग कोई स्टैटिस्टिक आ गया कि अच्छा फास्ट टैग से इतना इतना फ्यूल सेविंग होगा, इतना इतना टाइम सेविंग होगा, मैं वहां वो ऐड कर देता था. So this was all that I did separately for GS economics part. बाकी सारा optional के साथ coterminous था वो preparation. Separately मैंने नहीं किया था anything apart from this. Newspapers are very important.
So basically, Niti Aayog document is appearing very simple to him due to economics background. It is fine. It is good, organized, and we'll do it in the class. So when we do the Indian economy part, we'll do it. So yes, that's a very good thing. And you should not be increasing the list of your books or documents too much, because what happens when you start reading too many things, it actually kind of wastes your time and so on. So you should be good in terms of selecting the documents and then just getting updated in terms of current affairs. Right.
So
it's okay.
So this is one civil services is one area where the more you tighten your budget constraint, the better you will be at optimizing things. Okay? So आप limited sources से ही पढ़िए. Don't widen your list of books to read too much. Okay, that's very important. Newspaper for economics optional, I already covered that. I did not read any separate newspaper, but of course it depends on your background, your comfort level, your preparation level. If you think you should, please पढ़िए, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. How many hours of day to devote to economics? मैंने जैसा बताया कि मैंने 4 महीने के लिए सिर्फ जीएस पढ़ा था और न्यूज़पेपर पढ़ा था. सो उसमें जितना जीएस के लिए जो इकोनॉमिक्स कवर हो रहा था दैट वाज ऑल. 3 महीने मैंने डेडिकेटेड इकोनॉमिक्स ऑप्शनल के लिए प्रिपेयर किया था. दैट वाज ऑल बिफोर प्रीलिम्स. एक बार मैंने फिर अपना पेपर 2 रिवाइज किया था व्हेन प्रीलिम्स गॉट पोस्टपोन्ड. सो दिन में कितने घंटे देना है, आई रिफ्रेन फ्रॉम आंसरिंग दिस क्वेश्चन बिकॉज इट्स वेरी पर्सनल. ठीक है, आप किसी भी टॉपर, कोई अगर 12 घंटे बोल रहा है आप वो भी मत सुनिए, कोई 3 घंटे बोल रहा है आप वो भी मत सुनिए. ये टाइम आपका है. ठीक है, आपके बैकग्राउंड, आपका बाकी आप कहीं काम कर रहे हैं या नहीं कर रहे हैं, आपका कंफर्ट लेवल उन चीजों पे डिपेंड करता है. आप उसके हिसाब से बनाइए कि आपको कितने घंटे कितने दिन देने हैं आप किसी भी सब्जेक्ट में.
Which should be quality time.
एग्जैक्टली. तो अगर आप 4-5 घंटे ही पढ़ रहे हैं, लेकिन उसको ऐसा पढ़िए कि आपके दिमाग में उस टाइम और कुछ नहीं चल रहा हो, सिर्फ वो चीज चल रहा हो जो आप पढ़ रहे हैं. Yellow book should be referred for GS 3 paper.
The book which we give. Okay, fine. Which I'll take. Yes, yellow book is basically the Indian economy textbook which is given here. Nothing else. So there is no need to go for any other reference book, at least for GS. But as he was telling, the Niti Aayog document is very helpful both for GS as well as the economics optional paper 2. So which I was in any case going to talk about when I would start the paper 2.
So PT 365 में मैंने नहीं किया था रेफर. I used to read the monthly magazines. वो भी सिर्फ it was just to supplement anything that I was doing from newspaper. कि अगर वहाँ पर कुछ additional point है तो मैं देख लूँगा. It was not कि मैं उसको एकदम I'm reading it like a holy book or something. बाकी जितना आप न्यूज़पेपर से गैदर कर सकते हैं, there is no other material that you need after that if you are covering current affairs thoroughly from your newspapers. क्योंकि सिविल यूपीएससी किसी भी और पीटी 365 या मेंस 365 से क्वेश्चंस नहीं बनाता है. It makes questions from newspapers which are accessible to everyone in the country. Remember that. कोई मटेरियल हो सकता है कि दिल्ली में जो मिल रहा है वो सबको नहीं मिलेगा इंडिया में, न्यूज़पेपर सबके लिए अवेलेबल है, ठीक है, सो ऑलवेज रिमेंबर दैट। मैंने नहीं पढ़ा था कोई भी और मैगजीन।
Although the GS students are given the summary of the newspapers also on the portal, etc. That is good as a beginner, as in when you are scared of newspapers. But yes, over a period of time, you should read the editorials, etc. yourself, at least the economics related, so that the depth of those concepts are reflected in your answer.
I find class notes much more comforting than books. I refer books very. Look, हाँ, it's okay. Look, that's my personal opinion कि आपको books भी पढ़ना चाहिए. But अगर आपका काम class notes से हो रहा है, and I'm sure Shyam sir is an excellent teacher. I have studied again under him only in my undergrad. So if class notes are sailing your boat, then please, by all means, refer to that. If you can refer to books, do that, because I think everyone should do it regardless of where you are coming from. बट अगर आपका क्लास नोट से काम चल रहा है, इफ यू आर कॉन्फिडेंट इनफ, प्लीज आप एडिशनल बर्डन मत लीजिए जस्ट बिकॉज़ समवन सेड कि आपको बुक्स भी पढ़ना चाहिए.
Actually, I would like to add there. Basically, when we are teaching, we try to incorporate as much as possible. But still, we are also human beings. You have to understand that, and we are not setting the question paper. So it's more of a statistical term, as in no matter what I do, there is still a small probability that something which I may not have talked about in the class in that great detail, there will be a question on that. So sometimes if you read some books, although you can be very selective on that, basically where you can do those parts at least where the questions are more regularly coming from. So don't do everything, but do, let's say, oligopoly, do the welfare part to some extent from where questions are coming, so that the probability that you will not miss that concept, which will come in the examination, which will be higher. That would be a basic advice.
What was strategy for prelims? When did you start preparing? So prelims के लिए ऐसे कोई specific preparation नहीं होता है. जो आपका साल भर जो आप मेंस के लिए prepare करते हैं, that is there for prelims. मैंने एक चीज जो अलग करी थी वो कि there are certain facts जो आपको daily newspaper में मिल गए या कहीं और, जैसे मैं Insights on India में क्विज सॉल्व करता था या वहाँ की करंट अफेयर्स कंपाइलेशन में या पीआईबी में कोई एक चीज आ गया जो कि सिर्फ प्रीलिम्स के लिए इंपॉर्टेंट है, उन चीजों के लिए आई प्रिपेयर्ड अ सेपरेट नोटबुक, सेपरेट नोट इन माय एवरनोट नोट्स व्हिच आई हैड. वहां प्रीलिम्स फैक्टॉइड्स नाम से एक नोट था, वहां मैं सिर्फ वही एक दो लाइन के जो फैक्टॉइड्स होते थे मैं वो डालता था, व्हिच आई हैड टू रिमेंबर ओनली फॉर प्रीलिम्स. दैट वाज द ओनली स्पेसिफिक प्रिपरेशन जो मैंने प्रीलिम्स के लिए किया था. बाकी सारा प्रिपरेशन सिर्फ मेंस के लिए था. जो आपको क्वेश्चन आई थिंक व्हाट यू आर ट्राइंग टू आस्क इज कि आपने स्पेसिफिकली प्रीलिम्स की तरफ शिफ्ट कब किया, वो it was just 2 months before prelims. So my prelims was in October and I shifted in August towards only prelims preparation, full fledged prelims preparation, by which I mean कि past year solve कर रहा हूँ prelims के test papers दे रहा हूँ, that's it.
Although just like he referred to the quiz, etc., we for those students who are in GS, there is a very regular test series which we are running in economics. So we only set the questions and they will be quite helpful. You just be regular with those questions. Even those people who are not in GS may be able to access it. That's not a big deal, because in the present age of technology, most of the material, as you said, materials are available. You just need to be a little more careful that where you have to stop, because your time is still scarce. Okay, so given the scarce time, how do you make the best use of the materials available or the class notes available? That is the trick.
Is AGR report? I think you're asked what you mean is ARC report. I don't know if there's an AGR report.
ARC report. Yes.
So ARC report. Look, I don't think you have to read it fully. और सिर्फ summary पढ़ना काफी है उसका. Summary is more than enough. If you want, you can read the speech at the end of it. जो chairman जो है उस ARC के Mr. Virappa Moili, उन्होंने जो speech दिया है about the explaining the report and उसके issues. You can read that. But beyond that and the summary, I don't think you have to read anything from the ARC reports. Any trick or strategy to remember data in reports? So what I did was because we live in an age where there's too much data on some things and unfortunately there is not enough data on very important aspects. Data के लिए what I did was I collected data points authentic sources से हैं, for example economic survey, budget, PIB, RBI websites. इन sources से जो data points हैं on issues वो मैंने एक separate data note में collect कर लिया था Evernote पे. And I used to update them whenever possible. जो भी मुझे suppose economic survey का 2000, because when I was preparing there were 2 economic surveys. एक July 2019 में आया था and one came in February of 2020. So sort of a lot of data points got updated. So जब नया data point मिला for the same thing, so I updated them then and there. So there was one consolidated master data sheet that I had, and मैं उसको बार-बार revise करता था. But the thing that you have to remember for understanding data and remembering it is you need to know the story behind a particular data. Okay, so अगर आपको say unemployment का data याद रखना है, if you know the story of jobless growth in India, ठीक है, it's much easier for you to remember the data points then. ठीक है, तो डेटा को आइसोलेशन में याद करने की कोशिश कभी मत कीजिए, डेटा के पीछे की स्टोरी समझिए. अगर आपने स्टोरी समझ ली, आप डेटा याद कर लेंगे, गारंटी देता हूँ. ठीक है. Did you write a mains test series before prelims? So हाँ, मतलब मैंने एक टेस्ट सीरीज खरीदी थी, बट मैंने अपना जो पहला टेस्ट था वो मैंने 5th June 2020 को दिया था आफ्टर प्रीलिम्स गॉट पोस्टपोन्ड. आई डिड नॉट प्लान ऑन राइटिंग एनी मेंस टेस्ट बिफोर प्रीलिम्स, बट आई वाज लकी इन द सेंस कि प्रीलिम्स पोस्टपोन हो गए. सो आई रोट 4 टेस्ट आई थिंक बिफोर प्रीलिम्स. हाँ, बिफोर प्रीलिम्स मैंने 4 टेस्ट लिखे थे इंक्लूडिंग 2 एसेज. तो ये था before prelims. All the tests that I wrote after for mains was after prelims, after mid November, which is finally when I got serious about it. So मैंने उस एक महीने में मैंने सारे टेस्ट अपने लिखे हैं.
Just one thing to add before I forget regarding data and reports. If economics optional data is being talked about, I would again differentiate between static and more dynamic data, like your post-independence economy, 1947 onwards till even 2000 or 2005. That is more of static data. So, for example, the growth rate of GDP between independence to 1991, or unemployment, inequality, they are something which are quite static. You can make notes, and I'll do that in the class also. I'll give you those data. Then comes more dynamic, which is recent. So that is where you have to work harder, because no matter how much we do in the class, it will keep on getting updated. I think economic survey is one source, one reliable source which you can look into. RBI website is an excellent website. The only condition is that it is too excellent, as in too comprehensive. So one has to be very smart to get what they need from RBI website. But otherwise, perhaps there is no more detailed data set on Indian economy as much as it is available on RBI.
Yeah, so there's this report that they bring out annually, Handbook of Statistics on Indian Economy. But again, that's like sir said, it's a very comprehensive thing. So that's mostly for academic research, but you have to use it very selectively if you want to. So I think there are a lot of questions on GS and news general preparation. I think we should stick to, for now, economics.
Yes, please stick to economics.
So that GS के लिए आपको बहुत सारे और sources मेरे, if you want to refer to my videos, okay, there on the internet. But for now, let's stick to economics optional. So yes. How much was your interview weighted towards economics optional? It was not a lot. मेरे से economics related, I think 4 or 5 questions ही पूछे थे out of 40 or 45 questions. Or I'll post my transcript on the internet. You can go through it. But it was not geared towards optional at all. I would say. Can you please share again? We should skip this Niti Aayog ka report fully. हाँ, I think मतलब as comprehensively as possible. You should read that report once and make notes out of it. And after that, उसकी कोई जरूरत नहीं.
It is like a book basically of 300 pages or so. Fine. You can skip many of the tables or graphs in between, which is the way that you read economic survey also. Economic survey is also roughly of the same thickness which the Niti Aayog report is. But when you do economic survey, you have to be selective. So we'll learn all this when we do paper 2.
Numerical questions in micro. So uske liye I'm sure sir will give you ample resources and practice for that. But regarding a book, there's an excellent book called by Snyder and Nicholson. आप उस बुक से जो मार्केट स्ट्रक्चर हो गया या इंडिविजुअल यूटिलिटी मैक्सिमाइजेशन के रिलेटेड जो क्वेश्चंस हो गए, प्रोडक्शन थ्योरी के जो क्वेश्चंस हो गए, अब वहां पर देयर आर एक्सीलेंट बोथ सॉल्व्ड एग्जांपल्स एज वेल एज एक्सरसाइजेस जो आप वहां से प्रैक्टिस कर सकते हैं. दैट्स स्लाइटली एडवांस्ड बिकॉज़ उसके लिए थोड़ा सा कैलकुलस का बैकग्राउंड चाहिए. So I would recommend, अगर आपको वो नहीं है, then you first start with Hal variant. वहाँ के थोड़े बहुत न्यूमेरिकल्स आप प्रैक्टिस कीजिए, and then you definitely should try Snyder Nicholson. आप उसको escape मत कीजिए. But if you're not at that level initially, घबराइए मत, डरिए मत. पहले Hal variant से शुरू कीजिए, and then go to Snyder and Nicholson. So वहाँ से I think there are ample number of questions on micro which you can practice from there. Also, you should refer to Indian Economic Service का जो paper 1 होता है economics का, because वहाँ पर numericals consistently पूछते हैं, वो बहुत सालों से पूछ रहे हैं. So that's a nice question bank that you can have for practicing things.
The IES question paper is talking about. So basically, we will also be doing more numerical practice. So since I was more busy explaining concepts and graphs, so I couldn't do much numerical practice, except a few. We'll be doing more on that. Both micro and macro will be doing. Don't worry.
Are there any more messages? No, I don't think.
Okay, there are not. Someone was having a voice question. Is she still there? Okay, so I think they have asked most of the questions which they wanted to. Given, yes, I also basically. So those people who were perhaps not. Did you make? This is a common question from everyone.
Yeah, so I did make notes for my newspapers. In fact, if you see my notes when I get to upload them, most of my notes are from newspaper and then research from that. So newspaper में कोई topic है जिसके बारे में I feel that I need to know more. मुझे कुछ ज्यादा पढ़ने की जरूरत है तो फिर मैं उसके बारे में और पढ़ता था इंटरनेट से या बुक से जहाँ पर भी मुझे जरूरत होती थी. And this applies across all papers, GS, all papers, economics, everything. न्यूज़पेपर से मैंने नोट्स बनाए, अच्छे से नोट्स बनाए, वहीं से नोट्स बनाए और कहीं से नहीं.
So basically, again, the same thing applies. If you are making notes from newspapers, it is your own hard work, so that way you remember them better. Still, those people who are not very comfortable initially with reading, say, the Hindu because of not so easy language, they can start with Indian Express and make the notes. And the GS students have a facility of having the monthly magazines, etc. But then the same thing applies. What happens is, when we have too much of simplified resources available, we typically make the mistake that we think we know everything. So resource availability is not that you know everything. So whether if you don't make notes from newspaper, then at least read those books very, very devotedly, or make your own notes. That will obviously be your hard work and that you'll remember for a longer period of time. That goes without saying. So I think there are not many questions coming beyond that. So fine, we'll wait for some more time if you have some questions. Specifically to economics optional, that is why I brought him in to this particular class of economics optional, because I had hard time justifying them. Economics can be a scoring subject.
No, so I mean, last year there was Jatin Kishore. He's my senior from D school, rank 2. Few years before that, Tejasvi Rana, rank 11. Few years before that, Gaurav Agarwal, rank 1. Few years before that, Harita Kumar, if I'm not wrong, rank
just 1 year before.
Yeah, just 1 year before him. So there are ample number of students who have successfully cracked the exam using economics.
In fact, the success rate of economics is one of the best. If you look at it, it's a technical subject which I think everyone will agree with. But then sometimes when you are good at technical subject, it raises your confidence level also to handle the other parts, like in GS also. Book list on economics optional.
Yeah, so book list.
You can orally tell them a few, and then he has said that he will be sharing some of them on the portal.
Yeah, so for micro, Huja is the primary reference, and Oceanius का एक बहुत छोटा सा part है on the monopolistic competition. That Chamberlain का वो theory अलग-अलग. So that I did from Oceanius. Apart from that, like I said, Snyder-Nicholson की कुछ parts हैं on Coulomb equilibrium and such things. जो numericals मैंने वहाँ से practice किए थे. And then issues like substitution effect, income effect का जो decomposition है, वो जो equation है, वो equation मैंने जो स्लट्स की equation है, वो equation मैंने Snyder-Nicholson से पढ़ा था, because वो वहाँ पर काफी अच्छे से दिया हुआ है with everything. So this was for micro. For macro, again the primary book is Frowen. फ्रोवेन अच्छे से पढ़िए. उसके बाद अहूजा से सिर्फ गैप्स आपको फिल करने हैं कि अगर कुछ चैप्टर्स या कुछ इश्यूज छूट रहे, जैसे पैराडॉक्स ऑफ थ्रिफ्ट हो गया या बिजनेस साइकिल थ्योरीज हो गया, जो बहुत ही रैंडम थ्योरीज है बट है क्या कर सकते हैं, तो वो आपको अहूजा से कवर करने पड़ेंगे. Beyond this, I think macro is done with this. Money and banking and finance again अहूजा में फ्रोवेन दोनों में मटेरियल है, तो वहां से हो जाएगा. पब्लिक फाइनेंस के लिए, पब्लिक फाइनेंस में मेरे नोट्स काफी खराब है, मतलब मैंने खुद आई एम वेरी अशेम्ड ऑफ दैट, जो मुझे ही समझ नहीं आया जब मैंने रिवाइज करना शुरू किया हमने. सो मस्ग्रेव एंड मस्ग्रेव इज द प्राइमरी मटेरियल फॉर दैट. देयर इज लिस्ट ऑफ चैप्टर्स जो आपको पढ़ने हैं, नॉट द एंटायर बुक. Then there's this book by Hendricks and Miles on public finance. वहां पर कुछ अच्छे चैप्टर्स हैं और कुछ ऑन गुड इश्यूज इन पब्लिक फाइनेंस, वहां से कर सकते हैं. एच एल भाटिया से कुछ टॉपिक्स आपको कवर करने पड़ेंगे, जैसे वाइजमैन पीकॉक हाइपोथेसिस हो गया, ये सब चीजें एच एल भाटिया में दी हुई है जो
Plus we'll do in class. It's not that
हाँ,
big a deal.
if that's covered in class, आपको एच एल भाटिया करने की जरूरत नहीं है, बिकॉज़ वहां से यही 2-3 टॉपिक्स पढ़ने पड़ते हैं. इंटरनेशनल के लिए सैल्वाडोर इज मोर देन इनफ. उसके लिए बस देयर इज वन पर्टिकुलर टॉपिक कॉल्ड स्पेक्युलेटिव अटैक्स व्हिच इज देयर डायरेक्टली इन द सिलेबस, जो वहां नहीं मिलेगा आपको. उसके लिए आपको क्रूगमैन की एक बुक है इंटरनेशनल इकोनॉमिक्स, वो आपको वहां से पढ़ना पड़ेगा. दैट फॉर इंटरनेशनल में द थिंग इज कि बहुत साल पहले, आई थिंक अर्ली 2000s में, we used to ask a lot of questions based on Professor Bhagwati's theorems. So, for example, demand constraint on comparative advantage theory of Ricardo. तो ऐसे कुछ questions हैं जो आपको उनके papers में ही मिलेंगे उनके answers. But beyond that, I think Salvador के आगे जाने की जरूरत नहीं है. Apart from some very specific issues, जिसके लिए आपको internet पे थोड़ा सा खोजना पड़ेगा. Regarding welfare economics वगैरह सब उधर से हो जाएगा. For development economics, अलग-अलग मॉडल्स के लिए अलग-अलग बुक्स यूज की थी मैंने. सो लुइस मॉडल के लिए आई यूज देवराज रे. देवराज सोलो मॉडल के लिए मैंने मैनक्यू की जो मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक्स की बुक है वहां से पढ़ी थी. और ह्यूमन कैपिटल वाला भी मैंने, जो सोलो मॉडल का एक्सटेंशन है, मैंने उसी को यूज किया था. रोमर मॉडल के लिए आई यूज माय मास्टर्स के नोट्स, जो टेक्नोलॉजिकल प्रोग्रेस वाला जो मॉडल है. फॉर बैलेंस अनबैलेंस्ड और ये बाकी जो मॉडल्स हैं उसके लिए एमएल चिंगन की एक किताब है. बट आई एब्सोल्युटली हेट दैट बुक बिकॉज वहां एक्सप्लेनेशन जो दी गई है वो काफी ज्यादा खराब है. बट द गुड थिंग इज कि वहां पर कंपाइल्ड है सारे मॉडल्स एक जगह पे. If you want good explanation of models, then there's this book by AP Thelwall. वो काफी अच्छी बुक है. If you want to understand economic models, growth models, तो Thelwall में बट खोजना पड़ता है चीजें. वहां ऐसे कंसोलिडेटेड एक जगह पे नहीं दी हुई, अरेंज मैनर में नहीं दी हुई सिविल्स के हिसाब से. तो उसका यू कैन यूज अ सब्जेक्ट इंडेक्स, उसका वहां पर आप जाए, वहां पर मॉडल खोजे कि वो किस पेज नंबर पे दिया हुआ है, वहां से आप यू कैन स्टडी दैट मॉडल.
Which I will be sharing with you. So that is not, development is very, I mean, distributed.
Yeah.
Like Devraj Ray, etc., is taught as reading for development in DU. So you must be more comfortable, which will do. So I also have in mind, because truly speaking, both on public finance and development, there is lack of good book, which is a fact. And that is where particularly those students who don't have economics background, for them classes may be immensely beneficial. So you need not worry about it. I keep on sending them books also, and I actually encourage them to read a little. At least, let's say, macroeconomics, you should be reading from yourself also, because it's a very simple and very systematic book. You should be doing apart from the class notes. But yes, when we do public finance, development, even the class notes would be quite good, because the sources which he has said will be compiling that for you.
Lastly, there's one topic on environmental economics, जो कि काफी ज़्यादा vogue में है, because काफी questions पूछ रही है UPSC अब पे. तो उसके लिए मैंने उसकी इतनी अच्छी तैयारी नहीं करी थी. कोलस्टैड एक किताब है जो DU अंडरग्रेड में यूज होती है फॉर एनवायरमेंटल इकोनॉमिक्स, आप वो पढ़ सकते हैं. बट कोलस्टैड इज स्लाइटली टेक्निकल, तो अगर आपको टेक्निकल कॉम्पिटेंसी अगर उतना नहीं है या बैकग्राउंड नहीं है, देन Hendricks and Miles की जो बुक है वहां पर आपको ग्राफ भी मिलेंगे और मैथ्स भी मिलेगा उसके लिए. सो यू कैन रेफर टू दैट बुक डिपेंडिंग अपॉन योर कंफर्ट लेवल. फॉर इश्यूज लाइक से कोस्ट थ्योरम हो गया, या पिगोवियन टैक्सेशन हो गया, एक्सटर्नैलिटीज हो गया, वहां से पढ़ सकते हैं. ट्रेजेडी ऑफ कॉमन्स हो गया, वहां से पढ़ सकते हैं.
They have done all that what you told, right?
Yeah, so
fairly from the Varian plus Varian also does the tragedy of commons.
So आप वहां से ये सब चीजें कवर कर सकते हैं. Regarding paper 1, so this was the book list that I had for paper 1. पेपर 2 के लिए the book list that I had was कि मैंने एक ही बुक है उमा कपिला, उसका जो शॉर्ट वर्जन है, not the annotated version which is very lengthy, not required at all. शॉर्ट वर्जन जो है जिसमें she just mentions the ideas, मैंने वो बुक से again it formed just a skeleton of my notes. उसके बाद you have to use internet very very well. EPW Ideas for India बोल के एक वेबसाइट है where there are ample research articles by famous economists across the world. वहां से मैंने बहुत सारे पेपर्स पढ़े, वहां से रेफरेंसेस पढ़े, EPW के बहुत सारे आर्टिकल्स पढ़े, मिंट यूज किया selectively for gathering issues on areas like say Bhagwati Singh debate. Then there are certain chapters of books like Development as Freedom, अमर्त्य सेन की जो बुक है, तो ये बुक्स मैंने पढ़े थे कुछ. That's that for paper 2 is very dynamic. उसकी कुछ defined sources नहीं है, आपको जहां से वो मटेरियल मिल जाए वहां से उठा लीजिए. ठीक है. So and then a certain topics like say VKR Rao article और वकील का जो contribution वाला जो topic है, वहाँ की material मिलना मुश्किल है. I read VKR Rao के original papers, उनके on areas like deficit financing के ऊपर जो उनका paper है, on these things I read his original paper to make notes out of it. You don't need to do that. You can, if you can get note from the internet somewhere, you can use my own notes when I upload them. But उसके लिए उतनी ज़्यादा depth में जाने की जरूरत नहीं है, because एक question आता है, उसके लिए उतनी मेहनत करने की जरूरत नहीं है. प्री इंडिपेंडेंस हिस्ट्री के लिए तीर्थंकर रॉय की जो बुक है, वो बुक काफी है. सम एरियाज आर देयर जिसमें थोड़ा डेप्थ में जाना पड़ता है उसके लिए, जैसे कॉटन जो इंडस्ट्री, वो उतने डेप्थ में नहीं दी गई है उस बुक में. यू कैन सर्च द इंटरनेट फॉर दैट, और यू कैन तीर्थंकर रॉय के ही जो रेफरेंसेस है उस बुक में, आप उनको जाके थोड़ा सा सर्च कर सकते हैं इंटरनेट में. बट अगेन वो एरियाज ऐसे हैं कि क्वेश्चन आया तो ठीक है, नहीं आया तो इट्स अ वेस्ट ऑफ टाइम. सो
but they are asking 2-3 compulsory questions recently on economic history. In fact, I was going to begin with economic history with them very soon, and take up the parts from the various sources, which is mainly Tirthankar Roy, but also from the readings of Delhi University, like Dharma Kumar, economic history, Irfan Habib is there. So we'll do that. You don't need to worry about it. In fact, that is one area where you can be more comfortable. So the basic idea is that he has a very in-depth background also in economics. I know many of you are also from DU, and you must be having that kind of a rigor. So it is always good that if you have economics background, you go beyond what we are doing in the class. But even in the class, you can be assured that I'll be bringing the best of the common materials which are available.
One important resource which I would like to mention is कि जो trade related issues के जो questions होते हैं, WTO and all, अलग अलग agreements पे, उस पे if I'm not wrong, either the DGFT or Ministry of Commerce, they have a very comprehensive training document for Indian Trade Service officers. If you can find a document on Google, तो वहाँ पर आपको सारे question answer format में सारे जो major agreements हैं उनके बारे में information मिल जाएगी कि blue box क्या होता है, amber box क्या होता है, या GATS के अलग अलग मोड क्या होते हैं, तो वो आपको वहाँ से मिल जाएगा. So you can search for that document on the internet.
Actually, my advice would be that you first focus on the basic books. Don't worry about those areas where sources are diversified. That is one of the reasons why you are in the optional class. We'll talk about all that. You don't need to worry on that. But the basic things like Freund for macroeconomics, or as he's telling, Salvatore for international, these are in my reading list also. This is something which at least you should be doing on yourself also, over and above the class, because they are simpler books. They don't have much, neither complicated language nor complicated graphs. For the other complicated issues, you can rely more or less on me. So we'll talk about
one
that.
thing what I would like to share is कि look, if particularly in paper 1 अगर आपको कोई topic hard लग रहा है, don't be afraid of that. मेरा personal experience है कि I found, for some reason I found international economics very complex in the beginning. मुझे नहीं समझ में आता था वो चीजें, because even though I had studied it in undergrad, but I found it quite complex and challenging in the beginning. But the message is कि stick to it. Okay, अगर आप Salvatore में किसी भी subject में अगर कोई problem हो रही है, stick to it. Ask sir for your doubts and clarifications. Try to solve the model yourself, and you will ultimately get there. So don't worry if you are finding something difficult. वो journey सबकी होती है. So just be confident and be patient with yourself. ठीक है, मैं ये बहुत important बात है which I think I should tell everyone. Don't be rash कि नहीं मुझे समझ नहीं आ रहा और it's so difficult or I should just leave it. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. Difficult सबके लिए होता है. Don't worry.
I think we are fairly done with most of the questions. If there are any more questions which you are having, so yes, we had more than an hour of productive time, and in fact, I'm very happy that he has shared a number of things which we'll be also incorporating in addition to what I had planned to. So that is all about. We are all students of economics, so we need to learn from each other also beyond a period of time, and just keep this thing in mind, particularly those who are appearing for prelims, that go with a calm set of mind. Whatever you have done, you have done. Okay, now you cannot undo the things. And when you are studying, even if you study limited number of hours, devote quality time. Keep your mobiles, etc. with. Mobiles or laptops are fine for attending the online classes, but otherwise keep them away and be focused on that. So rest, any concluding remarks or any golden key to the UPSC, Yash is going to tell you. His name is Yash, so he doesn't need any other introduction from me.
No, sir, you are very kind. Regarding lastly, introductory, concluding remarks, I would just say that have faith in yourself when you are appearing for this exam or anything in life. Have faith in yourself that you can do it. Otherwise, there's no point to anything else. If you yourself don't believe that you can do something, then it doesn't matter what you do. Okay, so just believe in yourself and be patient. And also, I mean, there's no shortcut to success. You have to work hard. But apart from that, you have to have certain other things like patience, which is very very important, and a lot of humility, because when you prepare for civils, you generally have this tendency कि हमें बाकियों से ज़्यादा पता है, ठीक है, हम ज़्यादा पढ़ते हैं, ऐसा बिल्कुल बिल्कुल भी नहीं है. Have a lot of humility in yourself, only then can you improve. Okay, so there is one famous Sanskrit shlok. My favorite Sanskrit shlok is Vidya Dadati Vinayam. So the more knowledge you have, the more humble you should become. Okay, so always be humble, always be always be on the lookout for improving yourself. Okay, that's very very important. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And so we'll meet in the next class for the proceedings after it. So thank you for your presence and hope you got some productive message. The rest will be in contact. So if you need any further advice, I'm sure Yash will be ready.
You can note my email ID if you want. If you have any doubt or anything you want to ask me, you can contact me directly. So my email ID is simply yash.jaluka@gmail.com. So if you want, but I'm sure sir will clear most of your doubts himself. So you won't be needing that a lot. So that's it. Once again, thank you. Thank you for coming here and listening to me. I hope I was of some help.
Definitely, you were of great help. And so, okay, fine. So that's it for today. We'll meet in class. Thank you very much.